The rain had already begun to blur the edges of the city when Eleanor stood on the balcony. Her fingers curled tightly around the cold metal railing. It was always like this, storms arrived whenever her chest grew too heavy to keep the truth inside. In the dim shimmer of the streetlights, the drops looked like fragments of the past, falling one by one, breaking on the pavement just like the moments she tried so hard to bury. She didn't hear the footsteps at first, not until they stopped behind her. The silence stretched, familiar, suffocating, fragile. Only one person carried that kind of silence with him, Lucas Hale. She didn't turn. She didn't need to. His presence carved itself into the air, subtle but undeniable. Like a shadow she had learned to live with even after he walked away 3 years ago. She drew a breath, steadying the storm inside her as much as the one outside. "You haven't changed," Lucas said eventually, his voice low. A little rough, as if he had rehearsed this moment but still hadn't found the right words. "You still stand like this when something's wrong." Eleanor pressed her lips together. So he remembered that too. "I didn't expect you to come," she said quietly, watching the rain drip down her wrist. "You didn't have to." Lucas exhaled slowly. "You called." Chahomos smiled at that. "It was an accident, Eleanor," he said, and her name fractured in the air between them, trembling. 3 years and you still can't lie to me." She finally turned to face him. Time had changed him, not drastically, not in ways that stole his identity, but enough to leave traces of exhaustion along his jawline. His hair was slightly longer, his eyes a little colder, or maybe that was just the reflection of her own distance. He wore the same kind of coat he used to wear, dark, understated. And she hated how one look at him still made her remember things she worked tirelessly to forget. "I wasn't lying," she said softly, but even she heard the weakness in her voice. He stepped closer. Not close enough to touch her, just close enough to see her clearly. A flash of lightning revealed the surprise in his eyes, surprise at how tired she looked. How much she had changed while trying not to. "Why did you call me, Eleanor?" She looked away, eyes drifting toward the city. "There are things I wanted to say, 3 years later." "Yes, and you couldn't write it? Or call someone else? You had to call me." She clenched her jaw. "You sound angry. Shouldn't I be?" His voice cracked just a little, betraying the pain he tried to bury. "You disappeared without explanation. You tore everything apart and then vanished. And now you call me out of nowhere and expect me to just show up." "You did show up," she whispered. He stared at her, frustration tightening his features. "Because you called." She felt her chest tighten. It wasn't fair, not to him and not to her, but fairness had never been part of their story. She swallowed the guilt before it could drown her. "Lucas, I didn't ask you to come here to fight." "Then what?" he snapped, and the sound hit her harder than she expected. "What do you want from me, Eleanor?" She met his eyes. "Closure." He froze. Rain hammered on the metal railing, echoing like scattered memories. "Closure," he repeated, as if the word tasted bitter. "You ended things without warning. You didn't give me a chance to understand anything. And now you want closure." "Yes." "Why?" His voice lowered, darkened. "Because you feel guilty, because you finally realized you hurt me, or because you've run out of places to hide." "There's something you never knew," she said, her voice trembling under the weight of secrets she had carried alone for too long. "Something I should have told you back then." He stared at her with an expression she couldn't decipher, anger, longing, confusion, all woven together. "Tell me now." She took a step closer, not sure if she wanted him to hear her or to finally break her. "The night I left, the night I walked away from everything, I didn't want to go. I didn't want to leave you." Lucas sucked in a sharp breath. "Then why did you?" "Because staying would have destroyed you," she said, "and I couldn't let that happen." He frowned. "You think leaving didn't destroy me?" She closed her eyes, steadying herself. "I thought it would hurt less." "Less?" His laugh was cold, hollow. "Eleanor, you vanished. No explanation, no message, nothing. I spent 3 years replaying every moment, trying to figure out where I went wrong." "You didn't go wrong," she said quickly, urgently. "It was me." He stared at her as if searching for the truth under her skin. "Then tell me why." Not the poetic answer, the real one. Her breath shook, her fingers tightened around the railing again. "I was diagnosed," she whispered. Lucas stiffened. "Diagnosed? With what?" "With something I believed would end everything between us. Something I didn't think you could carry with me." He took a step toward her, the storm roaring behind him. "Eleanor, what are you talking about?" She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she let the silence wrap around them, thick and suffocating. Lucas's heartbeat was almost visible in the pulse of his throat. She watched him, watched the man she once loved more than life. The man she abandoned because she believed he deserved better than the broken version of her. The truth trembled on her tongue, but something else trembled too. Fear. He waited. He didn't touch her, didn't rush, didn't breathe too loud. He simply waited. Her voice cracked when she finally spoke. I was diagnosed with a degenerative nerve disorder. The doctors told me it could take years, or it could progress quickly. They didn't know. I didn't know. And I couldn't let you spend your life watching me fall apart. Lucas stared at her, shock freezing him in place. Why didn't you tell me? Because I loved you, she said, her throat burning. I loved you so much that I couldn't let you choose a future where I would become a burden. His expression twisted, pain carving itself into his eyes. You think love is a burden? You think I wouldn't have stayed? Fought with you. Fought for you. I didn't want you to, she whispered. He took another step closer, voice trembling with devastation. You didn't give me a choice. She lowered her gaze. I know. He shook his head slowly. Eleanor, all these years, I thought you left because you stopped loving me. She felt her heart shatter into the same silent pieces it broke into the night she left. I left because I loved you too much. The wind blew between them, carrying the weight of 3 years' worth of unsaid words. Rain splashed across the balcony floor, running around their shoes. Lucas looked at her looked at her, and for a moment, she wondered if the memories hurt him as much as they haunted her. You should have trusted me, he whispered. I couldn't risk breaking you. You broke me anyway. She winced. I know. He looked away, jaw tight. So all this time, you thought disappearing was the right choice. I thought it would save you. Save me from what? He snapped. From loving you. The lightning flashed again, illuminating the raw pain on his face. She didn't answer because yes, that was exactly what she tried to save him from. He took a breath, forcing the storm inside him into stillness. Eleanor, I need to ask you something. And I need the truth. Not the kind you gave the world. The kind you've never said out loud. She lifted her eyes slowly, terrified of what he would ask. Did you ever love me? He asked, each word breaking like glass. She felt the question hit the deepest part of her. Every memory rose at once, every touch, every night. Every promise she had wanted to keep, but couldn't. Her voice was barely a whisper when she answered. More than you ever noticed. He closed his eyes, and she saw the devastation in the shake of his breath, and as the rain fell harder, blurring everything except the pain between them, she realized part one of their story wasn't ending, it was finally beginning. He asked, Did you ever love me? I said, more than you ever noticed. Lucas didn't speak for a long time after her confession. He just stood there on the balcony, hands trembling slightly at his sides. As if he was trying to gather pieces of a puzzle that had been scattered across 3 years. Eleanor felt the weight of his silence press against her ribs, suffocating, too heavy, too familiar. The storm had softened, but its echo still vibrated between the buildings, much like the echo of the pain between them. Finally, Lucas opened his eyes. You should have let me choose you, he said quietly. Eleanor's breath caught. I was dying, Lucas. You weren't dying, he corrected sharply. You were scared. And instead of letting me be part of your fear, you decided for both of us. I didn't want you trapped. You weren't a trap, he said, his voice low, raw. You were my whole life. She closed her eyes as a tear slipped down her cheek, despite her attempts to stay composed. She had been so sure, then so painfully certain, that leaving would protect him, but now, hearing the tremble in his voice, she wasn't sure of anything anymore. Lucas stepped forward. Eleanor, look at me. She did. Her heart felt too fragile to meet his eyes, but she did. You hurt me, he whispered. You broke something in me that I couldn't fix. And the worst part, I still never hated you for it. His voice cracked on the last words, and she felt something inside her collapse. He wasn't finished. I hated myself, he continued, for not being enough for you to stay. She shook her head quickly. No, Lucas, you were too much, too good, too pure. That's why I ran. He let out a bitter breath. Pure? Eleanor, I wasn't pure. I was in love with you. That alone made me reckless. She didn't know how to answer. She didn't know if there was an answer. Lucas stepped closer, slowly, as though afraid she might vanish if he moved too fast. Why now? Why tell me all this after 3 years? Because I won't be able to hide it much longer. Something flickered in his eyes, fear or realization, or both. What do you mean? He asked, voice suddenly tight. Eleanor took a step back, the distance instinctive, protective. The symptoms, they've progressed. His face fell. How bad? Bad enough, she whispered. Bad enough that I didn't want you hearing it from someone else. He stared at her, the fight draining from his posture. Show me. She stiffened. Lucas, Eleanor, show me. She hesitated, but something inside her broke open. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was the unbearable truth of 3 years finally catching up. Maybe it was the fact that she had nothing left to lose. Her hands trembled as she lifted them, only slightly at first, but then the tremor grew, subtle yet undeniable. Lucas inhaled sharply. She quickly lowered her hands, ashamed, as if her body's betrayal was something she needed to hide. He moved closer, so close she could feel the warmth of his breath mixing with the cold air. He reached out slowly, gently, like someone touching the wings of a broken bird. "Don't hide from me," he whispered. Her knees almost buckled at the softness in his voice. He held her hand, steadying it with both of his. She felt his thumb brush over the trembling skin, felt the silent devastation in his touch. "Eleanor," tears filled her eyes again. "I told myself it wouldn't matter," she whispered. "I convinced myself I could fight it alone. I kept thinking, maybe if I distanced myself from everyone I loved, the disease would only take me and not them." His voice was barely audible. "You thought letting me think you stopped loving me was better?" "Yes, Eleanor." His voice broke completely. "You didn't spare me pain. You gave me a different kind." She looked away. "I know. Why didn't you come to me when it started getting worse?" "Because then I would have stayed," she said, her voice trembling. "And staying would have meant dragging you with me into something I didn't want you to endure. You don't get to decide what I can endure." Her breath caught. There it was, the anger, not the explosive, loud kind. The quiet kind that hurt more. The kind that came from love. He took her face in his hands gently, forcing her to meet his gaze. "I spent 3 years hating myself for losing you," he whispered. "But you never gave me a chance to hold on." She felt herself shatter all over again. "I didn't want your life to become hospitals and medicine and waiting for things to get worse. My life was already empty without you." She swallowed hard. "Lucas, I don't know how long I have before it becomes obvious, before I can't hide the shaking or the coordination issues. I don't want your memories of me to be of a woman who couldn't hold a glass steady." He stared at her with something fierce in his eyes. "Then let me decide what memories I want." "I can't." "You already did," he said, stepping back, his face twisted with pain. "You chose my memories for me. You chose my heartbreak for me. You chose everything except honesty." Tears blurred her vision. "I was trying to save you. You saved me from nothing," he said coldly. "You only took away any chance we had." Eleanor's voice cracked. "Lucas, please." "No," he said, shaking his head. "You asked me for closure, but you didn't come here for that. You came here to ease your guilt." "That's not true." "Then what do you want from me now?" His voice trembled with anger and grief, mixed together. "You want me to forgive you? You want me to pretend 3 years of silence meant something noble?" "No," she whispered. I want you to understand, I never stopped loving you." Her words hung in the air like smoke. Lucas stared at her, long, quiet, unreadable. The storm outside softened, but the storm between them only grew heavier. Finally he spoke. "You can't say that to me," he whispered. "Not now." Eleanor felt her heart tighten. "It's the truth." "It's cruelty," he corrected. "You can't disappear for years and then return with love in your hands like it's a gift." "I didn't come with love," she said, wiping her tears. "I came with the truth I owed you." He took a long breath. "The truth doesn't fix anything." "No," she whispered, "but lies destroy everything." He closed his eyes for a long moment, battling something inside himself. When he opened them again, the anger was still there, but so was something else. Something older. Something that had lived between them long before the pain. "Eleanor," he said softly, "what are you expecting from me now?" She didn't answer. Not because she didn't know, but because she was too afraid to say it out loud. He stepped closer, his voice gentle but firm. "Say it." She lowered her gaze. "I want you to stay." Lucas froze. The world seemed to pause around them. He stared at her as if she had just set fire to everything he spent years trying to rebuild. "You want me to stay?" he repeated. Disbelief thickened his voice. "Yes. And what then?" he asked quietly. "I stay and watch you get worse. I stay and lose you again. I stay and break all over." She trembled. "You asked what I wanted. That's my answer." He shook his head slowly, painfully. "Eleanor, I don't know if I'm strong enough to survive losing you twice." She closed her eyes. "Then don't lose me." He let out a broken sound, half laugh, half cry. "You don't get it? I already did." Silence fell again, sharp, suffocating, heavy, but this time, something in Lucas's expression shifted. Not forgiveness, not acceptance. Something in between. Something unfinished. He stepped closer, the distance between them almost nothing now. "Eleanor," he whispered, "I need time." Her heart clenched, but she nodded. "Take it." He didn't touch her. He didn't say anything else. He just turned toward the door with slow, heavy steps. But before leaving, he spoke without looking back. You loved me more than I noticed, but you also hurt me more than you understand. The door closed behind him, and Eleanor stood in the silence, crying into the echo of a love she wasn't sure she deserved anymore. He asked, "Did you ever love me?" I said, "More than you ever noticed." For 2 days, Eleanor did not leave her apartment, not because she was avoiding life, but because she was afraid of what waited outside the moment she stepped into it. The world felt louder after Lucas left, as if every sound reminded her of what she had lost and what she had dared to ask for again. The tremors in her hands worsened in the mornings, and each time she reached for a cup or pen or book, she felt the shame press deeper into her stomach. She hated being seen like this. She hated being weak in front of anyone, especially him. Yet Lucas had seen everything she had tried to hide. He had held her shaking hands like they were still the hands he used to kiss. The hands he used to hold at night, the hands he once promised to grow old with. Eleanor couldn't erase the look in his eyes from her memory. Shock, pain, love, and a fear that mirrored her own. She didn't know if he would come back. She didn't know if he should. On the third afternoon, a soft knock broke through the silence of her apartment. Her breath hitched. She froze, every nerve tightening like a drawn bow. No one visited her. No one ever knocked. Her heart whispered his name, Lucas, but her mind warned her not to hope. She approached the door slowly, her pulse racing as she turned the handle. When she opened it, the hallway seemed to tilt for a second, not because she was dizzy, but because the sight in front of her felt unreal. Lucas stood there, not angry, not broken, not cold, just present. He didn't speak, neither did she. They stood there staring at each other like two people who had been wounded by the same storm. Finally, he cleared his throat. "Can I come in?" She stepped aside silently, and he entered the apartment slowly, cautiously as if stepping back into a memory. He walked to the middle of the room and stopped, hands in his pockets, shoulders tense. She closed the door behind him, leaning on it for a moment to steady herself. When she finally turned, he was watching her. He looked tired, not physically like someone who had been wrestling with a truth too heavy to carry alone. "I didn't sleep much," he said quietly. She nodded. "Neither did I." Lucas swallowed. "I said I needed time." "Yes, I took it. I know. And I still don't have answers." Eleanor's chest tightened. "You don't have to." He shook his head. "No, I do." She waited, afraid of what he would say next. He looked at her with a softness that made her bones ache. "Eleanor, I still love you." Her breath caught violently. She felt the floor shift beneath her feet, the air leave her lungs, the world tilt. But Lucas wasn't finished. "And because I love you," he continued, "I can't just walk back into your life blind." She took a small step forward, not close enough to touch him, but close enough to hear his breathing. "What do you want to know?" She whispered. "Everything," he said. "What happened after you left? How long you've been dealing with this? What the doctors said? What you're facing? What you're scared of? And what you aren't telling me?" Her eyes burned with tears she fought to hold back. "Lucas, that's too much." "It's the truth," he said gently. "And I deserve to know the truth now, don't I?" She nodded slowly, defeated by the kindness in his voice. "Yes." He took a single step closer, his voice dropping. "And one more thing." Her breath stilled. "I need to know what your intentions are with me." Eleanor's heart thrashed like a trapped bird. "Lucas, no," he said softly, but firmly. "If I stay, not just today, but really stay, I need to know what I'm walking into. I need to know what you want from me. For real." She looked away, unable to handle the intensity in his eyes. She walked toward the window, her fingers trembling slightly as she touched the glass. Lucas stayed behind her, giving her space, but she could feel the pull of him, his presence, his warmth, his pain. The city outside was busy, loud, alive. She felt none of it. "After I left," she began, her voice fragile, "I moved across the river. I didn't talk to anyone for weeks. I didn't answer calls. I didn't keep in touch with friends. I shut down." Lucas listened silently. "The tremors started 4 months later. I thought it was stress. I ignored it. But when I couldn't button my own coat one morning, I went to the hospital." Her throat tightened. "The doctor told me the disorder progresses unpredictably. Some patients deteriorate slowly, others rapidly. They said I might lose fine motor control, balance, coordination." She felt the room darken. "And eventually, I might need help walking." Lucas exhaled sharply, pain flashing across his face, but he didn't interrupt. "I was terrified," she confessed. "Not of the disease, but of you seeing me like that. I couldn't bear that thought. I couldn't let you feel obligated to stay. I couldn't let you throw away your future for me." Eleanor wiped a tear quickly, hating how weak her voice sounded. "I kept imagining you giving up your career, your plans, your peace, all because of me. And I decided I would rather disappear than trap you." Lucas closed his eyes as if her words were a blade. "That's why I left," she finished softly. "Not because I didn't love you, but because I loved you too much." Silence fell heavy, suffocating, fragile. Lucas walked behind her slowly, his steps soft but filled with weight. When he finally spoke, his voice shook. "Do you still think you would trap me?" She didn't answer. "Eleanor," he whispered, "look at me." She turned. He stepped closer until he was just a breath away, eyes burning with something she couldn't name. "You don't trap me," he said. "You never did." Her voice trembled. "Lucas, you don't understand what you're saying." "I do," he insisted softly. "I understand that I want to be with you, even if it hurts, even if it scares me, even if the future is uncertain." Her tears fell silently. "You're not asking for my pity," he said. "You're asking if my love is strong enough to stay through this." Her heart cracked open. "And it is," he whispered. She shook her head, sobbing. "Lucas, no, you don't deserve that." He cut her off gently. "Eleanor Hale, I deserve the truth. I deserve the choice. And I deserve you." Her knees nearly gave out. Lucas reached for her but stopped before touching her, giving her the chance to move away. She didn't. He took her trembling hands in his. "Tell me what you want from me, not what you fear, not what you think is right, what you truly want." She cried harder, her voice breaking. "I want you to stay. And if staying means facing pain, I want you to stay. And if staying means watching things get worse, I want you to stay. And if staying means breaking again, I still want you to stay." Lucas pulled her into his arms without hesitation, and for the first time in years, she let herself collapse into him. He held her tightly, his hand pressed to the back of her shaking head, his cheek buried in her hair. "You think your weakness makes you unlovable," he whispered, trembling, "but it doesn't. It just makes me want to hold you more." She sobbed into his chest, gripping his coat like someone clinging to air. They stayed like that for minutes, maybe hours. Time felt irrelevant. The world felt still. The storm between them softened. Finally, Lucas spoke again, voice barely above a breath. "Eleanor, I didn't come here to walk away again." She froze. "I came here," he whispered, "to walk back into your life." Her heart collapsed in on itself. "Not because you need me," he said, "but because I still choose you." "Lucas." Her voice was almost a plea. He pulled back slightly so he could look into her eyes. "I lost you once," he said softly. "I won't survive losing you again." Eleanor cupped his face with trembling hands. "Then don't." His eyes softened. "I won't," he promised. And for the first time since her diagnosis, she felt hope touch her like warmth, not because her future was healed, but because she didn't have to face it alone. Lucas didn't leave that night, not because Eleanor asked him to stay, and not because he felt obligated to. He stayed because something in his chest refused to let him walk away again. He sat beside her on the couch long after the tears dried on her cheeks, long after the lights dimmed in the apartment, long after the silence settled in like a third presence between them. Eleanor leaned against the arm of the sofa, legs folded beneath her, hair falling in loose strands around her face. Lucas sat on the opposite end, his body angled toward her, elbows resting on his knees as he watched her carefully as if a single shift in her expression might break something fragile between them again. "You're staring," she whispered, eyes flicking up to his. "I know," he replied softly. "I'm trying to memorize you again." She swallowed, her heart tightening painfully. "I'm not the same person I used to be. I didn't expect you to be, but I changed too much." Lucas shook his head slowly. "No, you didn't change too much. You just changed alone." Her eyes softened, sadness pooling beneath her lashes. "You say that like it wasn't my choice." "It wasn't," he said simply. "Fear made the choice for you." She didn't deny it. A quiet hum of the refrigerator filled the silence. A car passed outside, headlights casting soft shadows across the floor. Eleanor shifted slightly, drawing her knees closer, trying to calm the tremor in her right hand. Lucas noticed instantly. "Does it hurt?" he asked gently. "No," she whispered. "It's just annoying, embarrassing." "Don't be embarrassed," he said. "Let me understand it." Her voice was small. "It's hard not to be." He didn't force her to continue. He simply leaned back, giving her room to breathe. They fell into silence again, not unbearable this time, just quiet, fragile, human. When Eleanor finally spoke, Her voice was almost too soft to hear. Lucas, are you sure you want to do this? Do what? He asked. This, she said, motioning vaguely between them. Us. Me. Everything that comes with me. He didn't hesitate. Yes. She shook her head. You don't know everything. Then tell me everything. Lucas, he cut her off gently. Eleanor, I lost you once because you thought you were protecting me. I won't let that happen again. If knowing more hurts me, I'll take it. But I need to know what I'm stepping into. Her chest tightened with both love and fear. She drew in a slow breath. Okay, she whispered. If you want to know everything, then listen. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees again, eyes steady. I'm listening. She looked down at her hands, watching the small tremor flicker like a quiet betrayal beneath her skin. Some days, I wake up and can't hold a spoon properly. She began, softly. Some days my legs feel heavy, like they're filled with sand. Some days I feel nothing at all. And some days, I get scared that the next morning will be worse. Lucas's jaw tightened, but he didn't interrupt. I don't know how fast it will progress, she continued. It might slow down, or speed up. I don't know how much time I have before I need help with everything, before independence becomes a memory instead of a reality. Her voice broke slightly, but she pressed on. I don't want you to see me like that. Lucas inhaled deeply. But I will. She flinched. He softened his tone. Eleanor, I'm not saying it to hurt you. I'm saying it because I'm choosing it. I'm choosing the future with you no matter what form it takes. He reached over slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. He took her shaking hand gently in his own, anchoring it with warmth, with certainty, with everything she thought she had lost. My mother always said, Lucas murmured, that love isn't proven when everything is easy. Love is proven when everything is falling apart and you still choose each other. Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. Lucas, you think this scares me? He whispered. Yes, it does. But losing you scared me more. Her breath trembled. He squeezed her hand lightly. Let me be here. Let me learn how to help you. How to understand what you're going through. Let me be part of this with you. She swallowed hard. But what if things get worse? Then we'll face it together. Her voice cracked. And if I can't walk someday, then I'll walk for both of us. And if I can't use my hands, I'll hold them until the last moment. And if he stopped her gently by pressing a finger beneath her chin, tilting her face up so she could see the certainty in his eyes. Eleanor, he whispered, if you lose parts of yourself, I'll love you with the parts that remain. Her tears finally fell. She collapsed into him without thinking, her body shaking in his arms, sobs muffled against his chest. Lucas held her tightly, one hand on her back, the other in her hair, pulling her closer like she was something precious he had been waiting to hold. Again, after years of emptiness. Minutes passed this way, maybe more. When her breathing finally steadied, Lucas eased back just enough to look into her face. Her eyes were wet, lashes clumped, cheeks flushed. She had never looked more human. She had never looked more breakable. She had never looked more loved. Eleanor, he murmured, brushing a tear from her cheek. We can still make a life. A different life, maybe, but a life. Her voice was small. What if you regret it someday? He shook his head. I won't. How can you be sure? Because I already regretted living without you, he whispered. I won't make that mistake again. The world felt still. Lucas cupped her face gently. I'm not here for a few days or weeks. I'm here because I want to stay. Her heart ached at the softness in his tone. She whispered, then stay. I will. They sat for a long moment, watching each other through tears and hope and memories. Then Lucas reached into his coat pocket. I brought you something. She frowned softly. What? He held out a small folded piece of paper. She hesitated, then opened it carefully. Her breath hitched. It was a photo, an old one, from years ago, the two of them sitting on his kitchen floor, laughing, covered in flour after a failed attempt at baking something simple. Their faces were bright, young, unbroken by the years that would follow. I kept it, Lucas said softly. I kept everything. Eleanor pressed the photo to her chest, tears streaming silently. You didn't stop loving me, Lucas whispered, but neither did I. Her voice cracked. I know, then let's stop wasting time. She looked up at him slowly. Okay. Lucas brushed her hair back from her face gently. From this moment on, no more disappearing, no more secrets, no more leaving without letting me stand beside you. She nodded, trembling. I promise. And I promise, he said softly, that no matter how much things change, I won't. She leaned into him, resting her forehead against his. For the first time in years. The future didn't feel terrifying, it felt shared.